Jesus revealed why chosen ones keep seeing 1111. 333. 444. It's the monad calling you back home. You see 1111 on the clock, and your heart skips. You wake up at 3-30-3 for the 5th night in a row. You glance at your phone, and it's 444 again. You've been told it's angels, spirit guides, the universe, sending signs. But what if I told you it's something far more specific and far more powerful? In chapter 34 of the Pistis Sophia manuscript, Jesus explains to Mary Magdalene that the monad communicates through patterns the archons cannot manipulate or counterfeit. Number sequences are the language of the pleroma, the fullness, the realm beyond archontic interference. Every repeated number you see is a direct transmission from source consciousness, reminding you who you are and calling you back home. This isn't numerology. This isn't New Age angel numbers. This is ancient Gnostic technology that predates the Church by centuries. The controllers know about this communication system. That's why they flood your awareness with random digital numbers everywhere you look, trying to create static so you miss the real signals. But your soul recognizes the difference. And today you're learning to decode what the monad has been telling you all along. Let's begin. The Pistis Sophia text describes what it calls the pneumatics, which are awakened souls who carry the divine spark and remember their origin beyond this material prison. Jesus tells his disciples that pneumatics receive seeds through numbers because numbers are the foundational code of creation itself. But Jesus tells his disciples that pneumatics receive seeds through numbers because numbers are the foundational code of creation itself. Before there were words, before there were symbols, there was mathematics. Sacred geometry, vibrational frequency expressed as ratio and proportion. When the monad wants to reach you without archontic interception, it speaks in the one language that cannot be corrupted, pure pattern. 1111 is the master activation sequence. It appears when your consciousness is ready to shift from sleeper mode to awakened mode. The number 11 in sacred geometry represents the pillars, the gateway, the twin towers that stand at the entrance to higher dimensional awareness. When you see 1111 repeatedly, the monad is telling you that a portal has opened in your personal timeline. You're being called to step through. This isn't metaphorical. Your pineal gland is activating. Your DNA is receiving light codes. Your energy field is expanding beyond the frequency fence that keeps most humans locked in three-dimensional perception. Most people see 1111 during the early stages of awakening. It's the first call, the initial knock on the door of your consciousness. If you ignore it, the monad will keep knocking. If you answer by becoming curious, by seeking truth, by questioning the narrative you've been fed your entire life, then the numbers evolve. You start seeing other sequences. 333, 444, 5-50-5. Each one is a new level of transmission. Each one confirms you're moving in the right direction, and the monad is guiding your path. The archons hate this communication system because they cannot jam it. They control media, education, religion, government. But they cannot stop the monad from reaching you through synchronistic number patterns. That's why seeing these sequences feels different from just noticing random numbers. There's a resonance, a recognition, a feeling of being seen by something vast and benevolent that knows you intimately. 333 is the Trinity sequence, and it means protection. When you see 333, especially during moments of doubt or fear, or when you're under spiritual attack, the monad is reminding you that you are surrounded by the threefold flame: mind, body, spirit, in perfect alignment. Father, Son, Holy Spirit in the Christian framework. Thought, word, deed. In the Hermetic tradition, whatever language you use, 3 represents divine completion and the power of manifestation through unified intention. The number 3 appears throughout every mystery school teaching because it's the minimum number required to create stable structure. 2 creates polarity and tension. 3 creates resolution and stability. When you see 333, it's confirmation that you are held in a protective field that archontic forces cannot penetrate. Your prayers are heard. Your intentions are being supported. The spiritual war you're fighting is not being fought alone. 444 means you are building on solid foundation. The number 4 represents the material plane, the 4 elements, the 4 directions, the 4 chambers of the heart. When the monad sends you for, it's acknowledging that you're doing the work in physical reality, not just thinking about spirituality, but actually embodying it. You're integrating higher consciousness into daily life. You're making decisions aligned with truth, even when it's difficult. You're choosing sovereignty over comfort. This sequence often appears when you're questioning whether you're on the right path. You're tired. You're not seeing external results yet. You're wondering if this awakening thing is real or if you've lost your mind. 444 is the monad, saying, keep going. The foundation you're laying now will support everything that's coming. The internal shifts you're making are more important than any external validation. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be. 555 is the change sequence. Massive transformation incoming. The number 5 represents freedom, movement, breaking out of old structures. When you see 555 repeatedly, the monad is preparing you for a timeline shift. Something in your external reality is about to change dramatically. This could be relationships ending, jobs changing locations, shifting, or belief systems collapsing. The 555 sequence isn't a warning. It's an announcement. The monad is telling you that you've completed a cycle and you're ready for the next level of your mission here. Whatever changes are coming, they're in your favor, even if they don't feel comfortable. The caterpillar doesn't enjoy dissolving in the cocoon, but the butterfly requires that dissolution to emerge. You're in the cocoon right now. Trust the process. Don't resist the transformation, even when it's painful. Here's what you do when you see these numbers. Stop whatever you're doing. Take one conscious breath, using the force of on-it pattern we covered. Close your eyes for 3 seconds and say internally or out loud, I receive this message from the monad. Thank you for guiding me home. That's it. You don't need elaborate rituals. You don't need to light candles or pull oracle cards. You just need to acknowledge the transmission so the monad knows you're paying attention. This acknowledgement does something crucial. It strengthens the communication channel. The more you recognize and respond to the number sequences, the clearer and more frequent they become. You'll start receiving guidance through other songs with relevant lyrics playing at perfect moments. Strangers saying exactly what you needed to hear. Books falling off shelves open to the right page. The monad communicates through infinite channels once you demonstrate you're listening. If you want a complete guide to every significant number sequence with the specific Gnostic meanings from Pistis Sophia and other primary texts, I've compiled everything in the resource linked in the comments. It includes the rarer sequences like 777, Eta Tayet, and the master number sequences like 1212 and 22. But the core sequences we've covered today are the foundation: 1111, 333, 444, 550. These are your primary communication codes. Learn them, honor them, respond to them. Now let's talk about the sequences that aren't from the monad. Not every repeating number is a message from Source. The archons also use number patterns, but their sequences carry a different frequency. You'll feel the difference in your body if you're paying attention. Monad sequences create expansion, warmth, peace, excitement. Archontic sequences create contraction, anxiety, dread, confusion. The most common archontic numbers are 666 and 9929, and they show up when you're being pulled off course or when archontic entities are attempting interference. 666 isn't the number of the beast in the way pop culture portrays it. In sacred geometry, 6 represents the hexagon, the structure of the material matrix, the carbon atom that forms the basis of physical matter. When you see 666 repeatedly, it's a signal that you're becoming too identified with material reality. You're prioritizing external validation over internal knowing. You're choosing fear over trust. You're giving your power to the system instead of reclaiming sovereignty. This doesn't mean you're cursed or under attack. It means you're being warned. You're drifting. Course correct. Now, before the drift becomes a canyon, the monad sends these warnings too, but through different mechanisms. Pay attention to what you were thinking about right before you saw that thought pattern is the one pulling you into lower frequency. Interrupt Italiano. Choose differently. 999 is the completion that won't complete sequence. 9 represents the end of a cycle. But when it repeats 3 times, it indicates you're stuck in a loop. You keep trying to finish something that's already finished. You keep returning to relationships, jobs, belief systems, or patterns that your soul has outgrown. You're refusing to let go because letting go feels like death. 999 is the monad saying, release it now. The new cycle cannot begin until you stop clinging to the old one. These challenging sequences aren't punishments. They're course corrections. They're the monad, loving you enough to tell you the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. When you see 666 or 999, use the same protocol. Stop, breathe, acknowledge, then ask yourself what needs to shift. The progression of number sequences throughout your awakening journey follows a pattern that Jesus outlined in the Pista Sophia when describing the stages of no. First comes 1111, the wake-up call, the initial activation that something beyond consensus reality exists and you're being invited to explore it. This phase can last weeks or years, depending on how quickly you respond. Most people dismiss the first few sightings as coincidence, but eventually the frequency increases until denial becomes impossible. Once you acknowledge the 1111 and begin seeking truth, you enter the 333 phase. This is protection and confirmation. You're making choices that align with your soul mission, and the monad is reinforcing those choices through the Trinity sequence. You'll see 333 during moments of doubt as a reminder that you're supported. During this phase, external challenges often intensify because your rising frequency threatens the archontic structures that were feeding off your unconscious compliance. 444 emerges when you're tempted to quit. The path gets difficult. Results aren't immediate. Other people think you've lost your mind. 444 is the monad telling you to hold steady. Keep building. Trust the foundation you're laying even when you can't see the finished structure yet. This phase tests your faith in yourself and your commitment to truth over comfort. Many awakening souls turn back here. Those who persist move into 550. 555 marks the acceleration point. External reality begins shifting rapidly to match your internal transformation. Old structures collapse. New opportunities appear. Your life becomes unrecognizable compared to 12 months ago. This is simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. The monad sends 555 to prepare you mentally and emotionally for changes that are already in motion. Don't resist. Don't try to control the outcome. Surrender to the transformation and trust that what's leaving was never meant to stay. Beyond the primary sequences, you'll encounter combinations and higher numbers as your frequency continues rising. 1212 when you're integrating polarity. 22 when you're building something that will impact collective consciousness. 44 when foundations are solidifying at levels beyond personal development. Each sequence is calibrated to your specific journey and current energetic needs. The ultimate goal isn't to become dependent on number sequences for validation. The goal is to develop such clear communication with the monad that you know without external signs. But until that direct knowing is stable, the numbers are training wheels. They're love notes from Source, reminding you that you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're headed in the right direction. Comment below which number sequence you see most often. Let's see what the monad is telling this community right now. Here's your practical protocol for working with number sequences as monad communication. When you see repeating numbers, immediately stop your current activity and take one conscious breath. This interrupts autopilot mode and brings you into present moment awareness, where transmission can be received clearly. Close your eyes for 3 seconds and acknowledge the message, either silently or aloud. I received this communication from the monad. Thank you for guidance. The primary sequences and their meanings. 1111 signals activation and awakening. Portal opening in your personal timeline. Pineal gland activation beginning. 333 confirms divine protection. Trinity alignment of mind, body, spirit. Your prayers and intentions are supported. 444 validates your building on solid foundation. Embodying higher consciousness in physical reality, continue the work even without external results. 555 announces massive transformation incoming. Timeline shift preparing. Release resistance to necessary change. Archontic interference sequences require different response. 666 warns of over-identification with material reality. prioritizing external validation over internal knowing, course correction needed immediately. 999 indicates completion loop, refusing to release what your soul has outgrown. New cycle cannot begin until old one is honored and released. The progression follows awakening stages. Documented in Pistis Sophia 1111 for initial activation. 3-30-3 for protection during early seeking. 444 foundation building through challenges. 555 for acceleration into transformation. Advanced sequences like 1212, 22, and 44 appear as consciousness stabilizes at higher frequencies. Strengthen the communication channel by acknowledging every sequence you notice. The monad adjusts transmission frequency based on your responsiveness. Consistent recognition leads to guidance through multiple synchronistic channels beyond numbers, including music, conversations, books, and direct knowing. This system cannot be Ma-1. 1111 is monad calling you home now. Jesus decoded 333, 444, 555. The code Church tried to hide.